Hello YouTube, this is Nite Misfortune bringing you yet another replay from the Supreme Commander 2 game. Today we have a replay from quarterfinal number 1 of the Serpents Open Summer Tournament. I am of course casting this much later than the tournament, so most likely you guys know what the outcome of that tournament was, but I will of course not be spoiling just in case that some of you have not seen it or seen the results. So, and I think this is a pretty exciting match all on its own because of the players and because of the stakes, which I will jump into just in a little bit. But before I do, I will mention that you can see the live stream replays on my YouTube channel. So I've posted groups A's, B's, C's, and D's matches, which are all from the stream on Twitch. Remember, I live stream all of these tournaments on my Twitch channel and other games. Go ahead and check that out if you're interested. I won't be casting any other group games. If you have a specific game you want me to cast from that, as always, let me know down in the description. I do generally try to adhere to what people ask of me or what people request. So if I get enough people asking for a specific game, I will certainly do that. For now, I'll just be casting semifinal 1 and semifinal number 3, semifinal 2, no, actually semifinal 1 and 4, and then semifinal 2 and 3 were live broadcasted, and then semifinals and finals were of course live. So all of those will be recordings of that, and then I'll just have to do 2 casts. So a lot of games are going to be going up. But enough is enough. Let's go ahead and jump into this game. This is absolutely such an exciting game for so many different reasons. Let's go ahead and on pause here. Let's introduce our players. The map is, of course, Seraphim Isles, a map that I'm quite fond of. And on the right-hand side, we have our teal Aeon Commander, Rainbows and Unicorns from Clan AA. We know and love her from all the other tournaments, pretty much. I think she's only not played the anniversary tournament and's been pretty much in everything else, even some of the gamer replays ones. So she's opening up with 1 Air Factory, and her opponent opening up with 2 is none other than Fortuna, also from Clan AA, also very familiar to us from the leagues, from the tournaments, and all the things. Fortuna is one of the few players that has played pretty much, not pretty much, every single tournament that I have hosted, including the leagues. Wasps popping out, and wow, interesting things. Rainbows and Unicorns is going down the center. I'm going to actually speed this up to 3. Should have done that sooner. But why is this match exciting, you might ask? Well, because of this little thing you might have heard about, the SCS, which stands for Serpents Championship Series, and it's basically a global tournament that I'm putting up for pretty much anybody in the Supreme Commander 2 game. Players can join the leagues, play these tournaments, from which of course we have this game, and they can earn points towards the end of the year invitational, which, as the name suggests, only be invite only, and thus you have to participate in a bunch of events and do well in them. And a lot of people have been doing well. You know, we have our top 4 pretty much solidified. Foxtermelon, Moggenraw, Hope, and Alpha Hex, of course, most likely going to be there. But the bottom 4, the next 4, are still widely up in the air because the points are so close. And among these 4 are both Fortuna and Rainbows. And Rainbows is just on the cusp of the probable cutoff for that. So it's important for her to do well in this tournament and get as many points as possible, especially against players like Fortuna. And as an added bonus, I just am waiting for Rainbows to do extremely well at one of these tournaments, and it would be such an exciting thing to have her move on into the semifinal and also into the invitational tournament. There are gunships coming out. It looks like Rainbows has been trying to push up this central position This is definitely an interesting strategy, one that I have not seen done too many times on this map. There is a flanking maneuver by Fortuna coming around with some bombers going to try and pick up this base. And Rainbows, I think, is expecting this, as she has already prepared with an anti-air station. Let's see if she will target down these bombers. That is the important part here. Nope, she does not. It is little things like that that do separate players out. And Rainbows, if you're watching, it's one thing you can improve is a little bit of target fire. But let us see how she does. She's built a lot of anti-air. I think she might... Does she realize that there are gunships? She might not realize. There is TML coming out, so this will kind of force Fortuna's hand in terms of responding to this aggressive push. He was trying to respond to it with his ACU initially, but that was a little bit of a waste of time, I want to say, and production, because he didn't end up proceeding and he went back. The TML is now picking off the mass extractors, and we have more gunships coming out. These bombers have managed to take out one mass extractor, so right now these players are actually even. But I do want to say that Rainbows is just a little bit ahead here. This air might actually directly intersect. No, just missing Fortuna's air over here. Kind of lucky. This is, of course, not enough air to do anything significant. Another mass extractor falls. This one is a core mass extractor. And Rainbows, I think, realizes what she's up against. She has a radar here now, so she probably sees these gunships. She's building a crap ton of anti-air. That is the correct response. Shields coming up. But, of course, this is... I will say Fortuna has been doing this a lot. Especially, I think, in games that I've cast and in games that I've played against him, he does this quite a bit. So many... gunship rushes, not gunship rushes, but gunship responses, I want to say, opening up with air and then switching into gunships. Wow, mass extractors are just falling left and right here. Actually, that was an energy generator. I'm not sure that Rainbow's meant to target that down. Planes are coming in here, going to target down these gunships, which are going to try and come around to Rainbow's main base over here and try to take out her base in response. And that is actually a pretty good idea. The correct response here from Rainbows would be to send her ACU a little bit forward and try to build up some mass up here, because she should realize that these gunships have made their way all the way over here. A lot of these bombers are falling. They're just not doing anything, just sitting there. A lot of this anti-air is in range of these gunships, and these gunships do not have shields at this point. So they have to back off, and that wasn't that much damage for the amount of time they spent coming all the way across the map. That was really not enough damage. And now there's no anti-air to protect these gunships either. So these gunships are going to be slowly getting picked off. It's just basically like a tick bite here by these Weedoboffs, which of course will eventually take them out. Unfortunately, again, for Rainbows, her anti-air is for some reason over here, and these gunships are looking for the commander. Gonna try and focus her down, but Fortuna has went down, and I think that was a Control K because there's nothing there for Rainbows. So Rainbows goes up 1-0 on this first map, a very important win on a very interesting map that could have gone both ways. So let us go ahead and jump into game 2. I will be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Game 2 of the Serpents Open Summer Tournament game, or match rather, between Rainbows and Fortuna, two clanmates from Clan AA. I've already unpaused the game. Let's go ahead and introduce them, or reintroduce. In his natural green color, we have AA Fortuna spawning as our UEF commander, as we do last game, and of course, we have our blue Aeon commander, AA Rainbows and Unicorns, starting with one air factory and one land factory. Interesting. I don't believe I've seen her go land on this map yet, at least not in replays. And her opponent, Fortuna, is getting one research station and most likely going to be rushing towards AC1Ks if I know him. So let us go ahead and see. This map is a little bit more open, so I'm going to set the speed to 5. Unless we have some interesting things. Hardwug's coming out for Rainbows. gonna inform Fortuna of her faction, or sorry, direction choice, tech direction choice rather. And I did say that Fortuna picked this faction, which he technically did, but this is of course a one faction tournament in which players pick one faction for the whole tournament to play, a concept that I strongly believe in and a lot of players quite enjoy as well. And the whole idea for these tournaments, of course, is not only to get a decent, pool of players for the invitation that I mentioned earlier and to give points out for that, but to also find great maps that will be played in that invitational tournament. And so far, we've had very awesome discoveries, I want to say, for some potential maps for that tournament, and also some very disappointing maps. As much as I like certain maps, like Finn's Revenge and Markan Bridge, they are ultimately just not too balanced for this game. But things like Etched Desert, which I don't think I mentioned that this is, of course, Etched Desert, are proving to be, as far, at least mediocre. Some players don't like to play air, but as you can see here, there's a nice mix right now of land and air. Fortuna has been building up bombers, and that was not a very nice clumping maneuver from Rainbows. I'm going to slow it down here. Harvogs are getting picked off left and right by the commander and the bombers. Rainbows and Unicorns does not have that much AA left over here. She's trying to construct an anti-air turret up there, but that is not going to do much because it's just simply not going up fast enough. There's a point defense coming out to prevent the ACU from pushing, but Rainbows and Unicorns has lost simply too many Harvogs in this initial excursion, and she has not picked up much at all here. Maybe a couple of planes here and there, actually to be precise 4 planes, but that is not enough. And maybe a radar here. Yeah, probably this radar right here. But that is really not enough, especially considering that Fortuna gotten all this yummy mass in return. There is a nice forward base going up. And again, if I had to guess how this game will progress, is there will be gunships coming out. They haven't been queued up. They will most likely be queued up. But I'm a little bit concerned because these Harvogs are just not splitting. They're not doing enough damage this time around. Of course, that function was for the MML in game 1. Fortuna is coming out with his ACU, and now Harvogs are getting picked off by mobile missile launchers. Not mobile, sorry, stationary missile launchers. And that should really not happen. Harvogs are extremely mobile. If micro properly, they can even dodge PD fire and maybe even ACU fire. However, that is very difficult to do. And for some reason, I missed the expansion from Fortuna all the way down here. I think I was fixated down the center a little bit too much. Of course, the reason why I like this map is that it really allows you time to play that macro game very strategically and choose your expansion. Of course, you can expand both ways as well, but something like this can happen to you where you will get pushed. And this Harvog play, I gotta say, I'm enjoying this because I don't see this very often on this map. Usually players will just stick in and play their, spam air game, and it ends up not being super interesting for the viewer. And but it is a very tactical map because it opens up these flanks for additional engagement points, and that's what that longer games allows. But of course, options are always good, so if stuff like this happens, it's actually a good thing because it means that the map is very, very versatile for the players. But let's see if this will work. This strategy, again, clumping up, and that is a very devastating hit, I want to say, because at this point, this is looking like a lot of green out. There's simply way too many bombers, a lot of wasps also, so you cannot simply build Weedoboths at this point because you will just get taken out. And a lot of Harvogs continue falling. She finally splits, but this is nowhere near as effective as if she would have split a little bit earlier. And unfortunately, the way she splits also carry some of her Harvogs out of range of these important structures, and she's still taking missile fire damage, which should not be happening at all. That is completely unforgivable. Very nice bombing round by Fortuna. Nice target selection. However, these mobile missile launchers will be able to get some work done, but this is simply way too much air at this point. There's a nice contingent of shields on these factories and a nice level of AA support. However, at this point, these bombers really can have a little bit of free reign and start bombarding here. These Weedo buffs will not get anything accomplished. Nice split finally, but again, if you're splitting just for the sake of splitting, that is not accomplishing you anything. They're just going to die very slowly and you're not going to get damaged. The reason why you split is that when you're in the base or when you're targeting down something, you want to buy yourself as much time to kill your opponent's structures. So that is the real reason you want to really be on top of your macro game for all sorts of situations, but definitely against air. There's a lot of air factories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 air factories already for Fortuna. 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow, that's a lot of air factories. Meanwhile, it looks like Rainbows has chosen to commit very hardcore to land. However, these Harvogs, if she still had her Harvogs, if she traded a little bit more efficiently, and that's the real problem here, is that the trades were not super efficient for her. If she traded just a little bit more efficiently, I think she would be in a much better situation here. These Harvogs do have shields now, but again, these Harvogs really need to be moving forward. If you're just holding them there for the sake of holding them, they will just die slowly, and she's still not splitting way too great here. So unfortunately, these Harvogs are just not getting enough done. The power of Harvogs is again that ground fire and air power, or air fire power, of course. An ability that none of the other units really have, at least the basic ones. But there's just simply way too much air at this point, and it looks like Fortuna is actually going to go for the commander of Rainbows, and he has shields on his units, and these wasps are taking quite a bit of covering fire for essentially acting as flares for these bombers. There is no target fire by Rainbows, and I think if she did target fire on the bombers, it might be a little bit better for her. Right now, she's at 3/4 health. These bombers are continuing to bombard. There is a lot of Harvogs. And actually, I think this Air Force... No, this Air Force is not going down. Rainbows goes down in Game 2. That happened very, very quickly. And again, I think if she targeted fire just a little bit better that game, she might have been able to pull it out. She had ended up with a lot of AA despite how many Harvogs she has lost. But of course, the AA on the Harvogs is not the best thing. And I believe she only had 1 air tower in here. It looks like it. Anti-air tower. Yeah, it looks like she might have had some upgrades on her structures, but much better to go with that dedicated ground anti-air tower because it does offer you the most DPS against those planes. Nevertheless, Fortuna is doing a great job. He ties it up in Game 2, bringing it to that ace match, essentially to the tiebreaker to decide who goes to the semifinal of the Serpents Open Summer. I'll be right back with Game 3. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Game 3 between Rainbows and Fortuna. This one is on Boolean Complex, a new map that we have not seen in any tournament before, but one that has honestly surprised the heck out of me. I honestly put this map because I wanted to see how it was. I wasn't expecting too much from it, but it turned out to be just an absolutely incredible map. So much so that it's actually at the forefront of my consideration for the Invitational. So we will see what happens. Let's go ahead and introduce our players. There's already some interesting things going on. Our Blues Aeon Commander with the name of Rainbows and Unicorns is heading up to the front. Let us see what she's going to do. Of course, on this map, it is kind of important to grab this forward choke point, which offers quite a bit of protection against air and all sorts of things. But there is a lot of avenues for your opponent to go around and bypass this choke point. Even over here, could be quite easy, but nevertheless, this map does offer quite interesting games. There's an air factory coming up. It'd be pretty surprising for any strategy not to utilize an opening air factory on a map like this. So that is definitely not surprising that Rainbows has put at least one. Her opponent in his green color, once again, we have Fortuna building 2 air factories as a UEF player. No research stations as of yet for either player. Of course, a larger map does allow for the possibility of those coming out, especially a map with choke points such as this. Scouting coming up And it looks like this air factory is pretty slow to build because it's being built by the engineer. As a result, Rainbows is actually not going to be able to pick off this scout. And that is actually pretty important because there's quite a bit of spam going on from Fortuna here. Rainbow's pushing forward. However, there is a lot of wasps at this point from Fortuna. And that might prove to be very beneficial depending on what Rainbows is going to pick as her follow-up here. Land would be super good here because there's no bombers at this point. And Fortuna is still producing air. I think that is a big mistake still. And wasps just continue to coming down the line. I'm really not sure why Fortuna is dedicating so much of his production power to wasps. These wasps are not going to do anything. And Fortuna and Rainbows, oh my goodness. Rainbows, you genius person, stops air production, realizing how many wasps there are. But this might be a little bit too much, too forward here from Rainbows. As this commander of Fortuna's is going to end up getting here. Okay, so she does plop down a land factory. It has been sufficiently delayed at this point, but really she's going for a really nice defensive location here. Is there bombers coming out at all for Fortuna? Finally, the first bomber rolls off the line at 3 minutes and 7 seconds, and that is just a little too late, I think. He could have been doing a lot of damage in the back, or at least a little bit of damage in the back, and now he's going to have to try and take out this expansion here. Rainbows is going to plop down a point defense. There's a shield coming up on this factory, and this is beginning to look very rough. I really like the opening from Fortuna a little bit more. Of course, Rainbows did account for this eventual push. Shield does come up. This PD is not going to go down in any form of reality because there's simply not enough bombers. Where are the bombers for Fortuna? There's just 2 bombers. There is no way that this will be enough. And if I was Fortuna, I would honestly try and reclaim this, if anything, or back off. Looks like he is going to back off here. But this PD is going to take a sizable chunk out of Fortuna's commander here. And 4 bombers. That is the state of Fortuna's army here. 4 bombers. His ACU is pushed back at half health. This is looking very rough. The expansion points from Rainbows are uncontested. She even restarts her air production, feeling very comfortable with her expansions and covering all her bases with anti-air production, expecting gunships to be coming out. And nope, so far only bombers. I would actually, at this point, if there was ever a moment to switch to gunships, it would be right now, because there isn't a huge commitment to bombers. So anti-air tower coming out, gonna effectively shut down all of these bombers coming out here. And let's see what the follow-up from Rainbows is. Looks like she's trying to expand quite a bit, trying to account for that late game. I think that's a little bit of nerves, because I think she's definitely won this opening battle. Not in air, but in the fact that her opponent just did not build bombers fast enough here. She's not even making anything from that forward factory. She must be floating quite a bit of mass because her air factory is also paused. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. Her engineers aren't building anything. What is she saving for here? Oh, a tactical missile launcher. When all else fails, go for the TML. Although you can say that technically nothing has failed for her yet. She has a very strong opening. Fortuna is going to scout this tactical missile launcher, but of course, this is going to be a very hard thing to counter because there's still no real threat for ground firing. Fortuna does throw a land factory, most likely tacking to those sharpshooters to counter the MML, TML in this case. But unfortunately, this map is so open in the way Fortuna has expanded, it's going to be very hard to cover, at least initially, all of these expansions. That core mass extractor is going to get taken out here. Let's see if Rainbows switches her priority. Doesn't look like she knows exactly how many shots are needed to take out a mass extractor, unfortunately. And this should be a sharpshooter. Yes, indeed. It is a sharpshooter. So that will provide a good bit of defense, and chances are Rainbows is not going to even realize that this sharpshooter is shutting down the missiles, because you can't very well see what happens to your missiles once they've actually launched. So Rainbows might not even realize this for a while and not send her, or not change fire on her MML. Although she does now. Okay, very nice play by Rainbow, staying very aware. These bombers are finally going to make their way to the opposite side of the map. But now Rainbows has restarted her air production, and there isn't that many wasps over here. Of course, they still do overwhelm the Aeon player here. But if she wanted, I think she could catch up in anti-air production here. And I'm not sure. Oh, I'm still on 3. I was like, why is this so slow? Because it's still on 3. All right. So, finally, at 7 minutes, with a very decisive air opening win, Fortuna managed to take out 1 mass extractor. So, not the most efficient of starts from Fortuna, but of course, the real thing, the real danger is coming here in the center, in the mid game. Let's see if Fortuna manages to stop this MML, or shut down this TML. Nice split now by Rainbows, but again, there isn't really a point in doing this because there's no damage going on. There's one lonely tank which will get picked off very quickly, so I'm not sure what the plan was here. Fortuna really should split up his sharpshooters here. That would do him well to try and cover more of his base. But he does win the air engagement, and he manages to take out this excursion, which wasn't really a real threat, if we're being honest, and continues to build air. And meanwhile, Rainbows is solidifying her position at the doorstep of Fortuna. I'm going to speed this up just a little bit more as we reached another little plateau here. And I want to say that neither player is really expanding fast enough to be getting us to the late game anytime soon. So this will most likely be decided by just how much damage Rainbows can do by sending a few bits of units like these up here. I'm not sure why these sharpshooters are going up in the front. They should not be doing so. I think that was a whole army select, and that should be avoided. Fortuna is building mobile missile launchers. I think this is what he should have been doing a little bit earlier, and supporting them with a little bit more tanks and just pushing out. Because that is really what this air at this point is going to be used for, because you haven't utilized it to harass your opponent. And again, players like Foxtrot really do this well. I guarantee you that Foxtrot would not have these planes sitting here for 5 minutes. And yes, technically Fortuna, you are moving them, but you're not getting anything done with them. You're not looking... Why? Okay, of all the targets, this should not be your first target. Yes, you should absolutely be going around and trying to snipe off some mass production here. Wow. Does not even bomb a single structure there. And it's little plays like this. Rainbows is going full mode into her structure upgrades, getting shield generators now, and going to be slowly creeping her base forward. I think Fortuna has managed to shut down this TML for the time being, but I think that's only because Rainbows refuses to switch target fire. These sharpshooters are still very clustered here in the center. She could be picking off some of these other mass extractors, most notably this one right here, and possibly even this one right here. But at this point, wow, Fortuna has a lot of air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th one queued up, 13 actually over here. That is a lot of air factories, but the problem is this base right here. You need a lot of bombers to break through those shields. Rainbows might even have Honker by this point. More shields coming out. Not sure they are needed. I might actually prefer a TML here in this case. But that TML is not really doing much. Finally, Fortuna sends some sharpshooters over here on the right to protect that engineer which is going to come over here and build up the mass upgrades. But Rainbows is ahead on the mass upgrades. She has built up both her expansion points. And she has 1, 2, 3, 4 air production, 5 air production factories. And that is going to let her catch up in air. But at this point, Fortuna does have a lot. Very nice bombing run. Could have split fire to probably take out most of this blob, if we're being honest. It's actually a very nice location for the air to bomb, because it will most definitely take out quite a bit of units with a bombing attack. So that is the one thing that's going for Fortuna here. And let's see what his follow-up plan is. Looks like he's heavily committing still to air. "14 air factories now. That is a lot. And I think he's building nothing but bombers. No, he's building some wasps. The air is starting to bombard these sharpshooters. Nice move by Rainbows. I'm really not sure what Fortuna is doing. Okay, so this happens a lot with Fortuna. I don't know if it's being indecisive, or it's the fact that he's misclicking or his computer is slow, but he keeps flying his air units over his opponent's base without really bombarding anything and taking a lot of anti-air fire. And that little excursion there has cost a very good, sizable portion of his army. Teleport is unlocked by Rainbows, teleporting in on top of Fortuna's base. But again, there's not enough ground firing units here. Fortuna is going to be able to pick off quite a bit of units here with these bombers and wins that engagement, even managing to pick off most of the initial planes from Rainbows. However, Rainbows is really taking charge with building air factories. There's still no research from her though, which again, neither one of these players has gone into research. I feel like if either one of them did, this would have been a much more much quicker game, I want to say. And I think something like AC 1000s would be very helpful here. Of all the games, I'm really curious why Fortuna has chosen this game not to go gunships and experimental gunships. These poor little bombers are getting taken out here by... Sends only 4 wasps over here. Doesn't seem like a lot. This excursion from Rainbows really hasn't managed to achieve a whole lot here. And Fortuna rebuilt his air force here, engages with Rainbows' air, but again, follows a little bit too far. Gonna lose quite a bit of his planes there. Probably the same amount that he's picked up, but now it is Rainbows that makes the false move with her air and loses the entirety or most of her air again. Another bombing run, or another teleport followed by a bombing run. Still clumped units. This is just not enough units that Rainbows is sending here to really be doing much damage here. She's investing very heavily into anti-air, and there's only like 1 or 2 ground firing units, be it MMLs or tanks, in that composition, which is not going to do a whole lot. I don't know what this sharpshooter was doing. Fortuna sending engineers up here, starting to reclaim maybe? Nope, I think it's probably a misclick. Fortuna is going to try and go for a snipe. I disagree with this wholeheartedly. Let's see, this is going to be close, but this is a big commitment from Fortuna. He's targeting down the commander. There's a lot of anti-air here, a lot of shields. The shields are still not broken, and Rainbows probably still has a honker. Yep, there's honker. Wow. Shields regenerating right at the right moment. Rainbow's still at 75% health. That is a lot of anti-air fire. There's a lot of mobile missile launchers doing nothing. These shields are holding. Rainbows and Unicorn still has her honker down, and there's still so many shields. Oh my goodness. Even picking up 1 star upgrade on her ACU. Oh my god. I don't think this is going to be enough. These shields are not going down anymore. New ones are even being built, and this commander is still at a quarter health. And Fortuna loses his Air Force. Okay, so I think it's an important thing here for me to mention that, again, when you have air, it shouldn't be your immediate goal to snipe your opponent. That is not what the correct usage of air is. Air is really meant to be used to take out these expansions. Fortuna had way more than enough resources to split off half of his Air Force and bomb some of these expansions. If he did that, I think he would have managed to get quite a bit done. And as a result, instead he bombs Rainbows under a whole lot of shields and Honker, loses most of his Air Force, and now is losing half of his air production here. And unfortunately, I think this is too much of a loss, and there is no follow-up. That's the thing. If Fortuna had, this is 35 minutes into the game. This was a very long game. I'm actually going to speed this up. 35 minutes for a game is very, very long, even on a map like this. So Fortuna could have definitely gone nukes. He could have gone artillery. Artillery would clean house over here. Artillery supported by these planes and a bombing run to kill, that would end the game pretty quickly. There'd be no chance. Artillery is designed to break shields. And now Fortuna is getting gunships. I think I don't see, or rather, how do I say this? I don't think either one of these players have played their best here. Because Fortuna is not utilizing his air, and Rainbows is not really pushing out this game. She's playing ultra defensively, but I will say that this is obviously a lot on the line here. This is so much on the line, and Fortuna can't even find Rainbows' ACU. Finally, I think targets down the ACU, but I don't think this is enough air. There's a lot of anti-air as well. There's so many shields over here. Rainbows has shields on her ACU now, and teleports in a supporting contingent of these crackdows for anti-air, and Fortuna loses his air again. And look, I didn't even see where this air came from. There's a snipe on Fortuna now, and Rainbows wins, I believe, her first ever quarterfinal match to progress her to the semifinals of the Serpents Open Summer 2020. So obviously I'm casting this after the tournament, so I will say that I was super excited, and a huge congratulations goes out to Rainbows. You thoroughly deserved this, although I don't think either one of you played very well on this last map. The first two matches were very interesting, and this did give Rainbows a very good bonus to your points. So congratulations again, Rainbows, on advancing and earning just a little bit more points to help with advancing to the Invitational Tournament. Fortuna, you are also an amazing player. You are in fifth place right now for the Serpents Open Championship Series points. So you definitely have very good chances still to qualify, but I wish both of you luck in the upcoming tournaments, and I hope to see you guys play in the Invitational as well. As for you viewers, thank you so much for watching this. I think this is going to end up an hour plus video, so if you've stuck around, thank you so much. If you've enjoyed this video, please do comment below and let me know that you've enjoyed it, and do like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Check out my Discord, my Twitch channels for all the fun things, and of course join the OSS Discord server for the tournament updates and my videos. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in a video very, very shortly.